There's a moment every man experiences, though most don't recognize it until it hits. The moment you stop chasing, and she suddenly starts noticing. It isn't magic. It's the power of calm, of choosing yourself, of stepping out of the noise and back into your own center. Detachment isn't about being cold. It's about being clear, and that clarity changes everything. How she sees you, how you move, and how the entire dynamic shifts in your favor. Today, we're breaking down why detachment becomes the ultimate source of attraction, and why the man who masters it becomes unforgettable. If that's the kind of strength you're ready to step into, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Let's begin. Number 1. When you finally stop chasing. There comes a moment when you simply run out of energy to chase what doesn't chase you back. And that moment changes everything. It's quiet, almost unnoticeable at first, but something inside you finally says, enough. Not in anger, not in frustration, but in clarity. You stop pouring your energy into someone who keeps drifting in and out, and instead, you pull that energy inward. And the second you do, she feels the shift instantly. Your tone changes. Your timing changes. Your presence changes. You move differently, like a man who knows his worth, instead of a man trying to earn permission to matter. This is where detachment is the ultimate attraction begins to reveal itself. Because detachment isn't about ignoring her. It's not about playing games or pretending to be cold. It's about returning to yourself. It's the moment you stop chasing her and start choosing you, and that's the moment a woman sees a man through a completely new lens. Think of Chrysippus, who taught that a man should step back from the noise of desire to see clearly. Chasing is noise. It makes your thoughts frantic, your reactions desperate, your presence shaky. But when you stop chasing, you step back from that noise, and suddenly, everything calms. You're not trying to force a feeling or push a response. You're observing, choosing, thinking. You're becoming a man who stands, not a man who runs. Let me give you a real example. Imagine she sends you a short, dry message, the kind that used to make you panic and scramble to fix whatever went wrong. The old you would have replied instantly, over-explained, or tried to spark the conversation back to life. But the detached you read it, breathe, and continue with your day. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You're no longer trying to drag energy out of someone who isn't meeting you halfway. And that's when something interesting happens. She notices. She wonders why you're not reacting the same way. She thinks about you in moments she didn't expect to, because the moment you stop chasing is the moment she starts feeling the space. You've created a space filled not with desperation, but with calm strength. That's the power of detachment. It's not withdrawal, it's transformation. It's not saying, I don't care. It's saying, I won't abandon myself. And that quiet shift, that steady inner confidence, is what makes her look at you differently, often for the first time. Number 2. The space she can feel. Space creates curiosity. When you stop filling every silence with effort, she finally has room to feel something genuine. You stop crowding the connection and allow emotions to breathe. And this is exactly why detachment becomes the ultimate attraction, because when a man no longer tries to force a connection, the energy shifts in a way she can't ignore. You're no longer reaching, no longer chasing, no longer trying to convince her of your worth. Instead, you're standing still in your value. And that stillness speaks louder than anything you could ever say. It's like Musonius Rufus, who said that distance sharpens the mind the way a whetstone sharpens a blade. By stepping back, your presence becomes sharper, not weaker. Imagine texting her every day, trying to keep the spark alive, trying to make her feel something. At first, she might enjoy the attention, but eventually, the constant presence becomes predictable. There's no contrast, no space, no air. Now imagine you pull back, not as a tactic, not as punishment, but because you finally understand that real attraction grows in openness, not pressure. Suddenly, she feels the edges of that space. She wonders what changed, why your energy feels calmer, why you're no longer orbiting around her like before. That's the moment detachment begins its work. Because space isn't emptiness, it's invitation. It invites her thoughts to drift back to you. It invites her feelings to rise without being pushed. It invites her curiosity to wake up again. Think of a time when you stopped replying instantly, not out of anger, but because you were genuinely busy improving your life, working out, reading, focusing on your mission. Notice how she started checking your stories more, responding faster, or reaching out in ways she didn't before. That wasn't magic. That was detachment, creating room for attraction to breathe again. The truth is simple. When you stop chasing, your energy returns to you. When your energy returns to you, your presence grows stronger. And when your presence grows stronger, she feels it even in silence. That's why detachment is the ultimate attraction. Space doesn't push her away. It pulls her attention back in. And as you sit with that, I want you to really ask yourself, where in your life have you been suffocating a connection instead of giving it room to breathe? This is where real growth starts, not in chasing harder, but in understanding the quiet power of stepping back. If this idea of using space instead of pressure is opening your eyes, hit that like button so this message reaches more men who need it. And I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me how you've seen this play out in your own life, so I know you're here, you're listening, and you're ready to master this level of calm attraction. Number 3. When you stop reacting, her tone, her delays, her mood swings, none of it shakes you now. You begin responding only when necessary. Your emotions steady because your awareness strengthens. And I want you to feel how powerful that shift really is, because this is where why detachment is the ultimate attraction truly begins. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding the emotional back and forth that keeps most men stuck. You're no longer pulled in by every spike of tension, every cold message, every unpredictable shift. Instead, you create a quiet space around yourself, and that space becomes impossible for her to ignore. Think of Cleanthes, who trained himself to pause before responding to anything. He believed that a man's strength showed in the moment he didn't react. That pause wasn't weakness, it was clarity. He let the emotional dust settle before choosing his next move. And that quiet discipline is exactly the energy she feels around you when you stop overreacting. It's not emotional distance, it's emotional mastery. Picture how this plays out in real life. She sends you a vague message, something short or lukewarm, the kind of text that would have made the old you spiral into guessing, worrying, double texting. But this time, you read it, and you continue your day. Not coldly, not angrily, just calmly. You finish your workout. You handle your work. You stay rooted in your own world. And when you finally respond, it's from a place of steadiness, not insecurity. What you're doing is powerful because most men don't know how to stop reacting. They rush to fix, to explain, to chase, to mend the emotional gap. But when you stop doing that, she feels something she didn't expect. Your absence of reaction becomes a presence of strength. It makes her aware of her own behavior instead of rewarding it. It makes her notice the space you're no longer filling. And in that silence, she begins to lean in just a little more. Detachment is not about closing your heart. It's about not letting her emotions dictate yours. It's the moment you stop letting her moods decide your value. And the man who can do that, the man who pauses, who stays grounded, who chooses his response, instead of reacting, becomes the man she feels pulled toward. Not because he tries harder, but because his calm becomes the gravity she can't escape. Number 4. not needing her to feel whole. You no longer rely on her reassurance to feel centered. Your confidence begins coming from within instead of from her messages. And if you really pay attention, you'll notice how freeing that feels. It's like your nervous system finally exhales. You stop analyzing how fast she replies. You stop rereading conversations to see if you said something wrong. You stop living in that tight space where your mood rises and falls depending on her attention. This shift, this quiet return to yourself, is one of the core reasons why detachment is the ultimate attraction. When you detach, you're not pulling away to punish her. You're pulling back to reclaim your foundation. Your sense of worth stops being a reaction to her behavior. It becomes something rooted inside you, something she can't shake no matter what she does. And that's where the dynamic changes completely. This mirrors Aristo of Chios, who refused to let admiration or criticism define him. He said a man must stand whole in himself, untouched by praise or rejection. Think about the strength it takes to live that way, to not crumble when someone pulls away, to not inflate when someone approves, to walk through life with your value anchored inside, not scattered outside of you. Imagine this in a real situation. She becomes distant. Her messages slow down. Her tone cools. The old you would have spiraled, sending longer texts, trying to fix the vibe, asking what went wrong. But now, you stay steady. You feel the shift, but you don't chase it. You respond when necessary and then continue with your day. Your peace isn't held hostage by her mood anymore. That's the moment she begins to feel something unexpected. She notices the difference. She wonders why you're not seeking her approval like before. She wonders why your emotions aren't reacting to hers. And that curiosity, that subtle confusion, it pulls her attention back to you in a way chasing never could. Because here's the truth. When a man no longer needs a woman to feel whole, his energy changes. He stops radiating neediness and starts radiating presence. He stops giving off, "I need you to choose me," and starts giving off, "I choose myself first." And women feel that contrast instantly. That inner wholeness makes you more grounded, more mysterious, more attractive without you trying to be. That's the paradox of detachment. The moment you stop needing her to feel complete is the moment she starts seeing you through a completely different lens. And in many cases, that's exactly when she begins to miss you. Number 5. Your energy shifts back to you. Instead of spending time decoding her behavior, you redirect your energy toward your own growth, your goals, your health, your discipline. And brother, this is where everything begins to change. Because when you stop stretching yourself outward, trying to understand what every emoji, every delayed reply, every shift in her tone might mean, you finally reclaim the energy you didn't even realize you were giving away. You start feeling more grounded, more centered, more aware of yourself instead of hyper-focused on her. This is exactly what Hierocles meant with his circles of concern, teaching men to pull their attention closer to what they can control. He believed a man's peace grows when he stops expanding his concern into places he has no power. And that's what you're doing now. You're shrinking the distance between who you are and what you focus on. You're no longer chasing meaning in her silence. You're finding meaning in your own actions. Picture this shift in real life. Before, you'd wake up and the first thought in your head was whether she replied. Your mood rose and fell based on the smallest thing she did. You would replay arguments, overthink her tone, or wonder if you said something wrong. But now, you're waking up with purpose. You're hitting the gym before she even gets out of bed. You're improving your diet, working on projects, sharpening your mind. You're doing things that actually build you, not drain you. And trust me, she feels that shift even if she pretends not to. Women are incredibly intuitive when it comes to emotional energy. They know when a man's attention has detached from them Not because he's playing games, but because he's genuinely growing. Suddenly, she's the one wondering why you're not online as much. She's the one checking your story. She's the one sensing that your world no longer revolves around her. That's the silent gravitational pull of detachment. When your energy stops leaking outward and starts flowing inward, you become stronger, calmer, more magnetic without even trying. You're no longer a man who needs her reactions to feel whole. You're a man who is building himself from the inside out. And nothing, absolutely nothing, attracts a woman more than a man who is centered in his own life. That's why detachment is the ultimate attraction. It's not coldness, it's not punishment, it's clarity. It's you choosing to invest in yourself, and in doing so, you create a space where she begins to notice what she once took for granted. And as your focus strengthens, her curiosity grows, because a man who pulls his energy inward becomes the kind of man she can't stop thinking about. And now I want you to pause for a moment and really think about this shift. You've stopped chasing what you can't control and started mastering what you can. That's the essence of strength. So take a moment to reflect on that. Drop a comment below, sharing how you've been reclaiming your energy lately. Or simply type, "My energy belongs to me," because the moment you truly believe that, everything starts to change. Number 6. Calm becomes your vibe. Your voice becomes steady, your movements slow, your presence grows heavier, more grounded. People feel it. She feels it even more. And what's powerful about this shift is that it doesn't come from pretending to be calm, it comes from genuinely not being controlled by her reactions anymore. When you step into detachment, you stop waiting for her tone to validate you. You stop needing her next message to feel secure. You stop living on that emotional roller coaster where her mood determines your mood. Suddenly, your energy stops leaking outward and returns back to you. This is where calm becomes more than a mood. It becomes a signature, a vibe, a way you walk into the room, a way you sit, breathe, listen, and move. You're no longer tense or jumpy or reactive. You're anchored. And that anchoring is exactly why detachment becomes the ultimate attraction. Women feel safest and most drawn to a man who is not overwhelmed by the moment. Think of Agrippinus, the Stoic, who stayed calm even when others declared him an enemy. He simply said, "Let them do what they must. I will do what I must." That wasn't arrogance, it was clarity. He understood that another person's emotion, judgment, or chaos had no authority over his internal world. His calm wasn't forced, it was chosen. And now yours is too. You pick calm the same way he did, not because the world cooperates, but because your inner world is finally under your control. Let me give you a real example. Imagine you're out with her, maybe walking through a mall or sitting at a cafe. Out of nowhere, her energy dips, she becomes quiet, distracted, or a little colder. The old, you might ask 5 times if she's okay, overthink every second of silence, or try to fix something that isn't yours to fix. But the detached version of you exhale. You stay present. You don't chase the mood. You don't try to micromanage it. You give her space without withdrawing your strength. You let the moment breathe. And here's the part most men never understand. Your calm doesn't just stabilize you, it stabilizes her. She feels your steadiness. She recognizes that you're not shaken by small emotional storms. And that makes you feel different from other men, unforgettable even. Your calm becomes a quiet signal that says, "I'm not here to control you, and I'm not controlled by you." That's the kind of energy that makes her curious again. It makes her rethink you. It makes her lean in just a little bit more. Because calm is rare. Calm is masculine. Calm is magnetic. And when it becomes your vibe, she doesn't just notice the change, she feels it deep in her body, even if she can't explain why. Number 7. You're no longer predictable. And that's when the entire dynamic subtly flips in your favor. When you were chasing, everything about you was consistent to the point of being obvious. She knew how quickly you'd reply, how eager you'd be to fix things, how ready you were to accept crumbs just to stay close. Your behavior became a straight line, reliable but uninspiring, steady but emotionally exposed. But the moment you detach, something deeper shifts. You stop acting from impulse and start acting from intention. Suddenly, you're not as available. You're not responding the second she breathes toward her phone. You're not bending your schedule just to match hers. And that change doesn't come from bitterness, it comes from balance. This is the kind of unpredictability that's magnetic because it's rooted in growth, not games. Your energy becomes more difficult to interpret in the most intriguing way. She can no longer assume how you'll react. She can no longer predict that you'll chase harder if she pulls back. Instead, she feels something that surprises her. You've stopped orbiting around her emotions. You're moving at your own tempo now, a tempo that's slower, calmer, more deliberate. And she feels that shift instantly, sometimes even before you do. This is where curiosity awakens in her. She starts wondering what's going on in your mind, what you're investing your time in, why you feel more grounded and less accessible. Detachment creates gaps, small moments of silence, small changes in your rhythm that make her lean forward instead of drift away. When you were predictable, she didn't have to think. Now that you're not, she starts thinking a lot. It reminds me of Detachment, the Stoic, who stunned an entire court by doing the opposite of what everyone expected. Instead of defending himself with passion or anger, he stood still, calm, and utterly unshaken. That stillness wasn't weakness, it was strategy through self-control. His unpredictability wasn't chaotic, it was centered. And because it was different from what everyone assumed, it held unbelievable power. Your detachment carries that same essence. You're not withdrawing to punish her. You're stepping back because you're done trading your peace for emotional chaos. You're making choices from a place of inner stability, and that quiet strength makes your next move harder to read, which makes you more compelling. Women are deeply drawn to a man whose emotions aren't easily swayed, a man who can shift his attention inward without announcing it or explaining himself. By becoming less predictable, you become more intriguing. Your calm becomes a mystery. Your silence becomes a presence. Your distance becomes a statement without ever speaking a word. And that's exactly why detachment becomes the ultimate form of attraction. It replaces the old version of you she took for granted with a man she now has to pay attention to. Number 8. You return to your mission. Your focus shifts back to your path. You work on your body, your goals, your discipline. A man with direction becomes magnetic without trying. And I want you to take a second to really feel what's happening here. Because this is the heart of why detachment is the ultimate attraction. Detachment isn't about shutting down or pretending you don't care. It's about refusing to abandon yourself. It's about no longer drifting through life, hoping her attention gives your days meaning. It's about refusing to pause your progress while waiting for her energy, her mood, her replies to validate you. Instead, you reclaim your purpose. And that shift is powerful in a way that words barely capture. You start waking up with intention again. You train harder, not to impress her, but to improve you. You think deeper, giving your mind the food it's been starving for. You set real targets, goals that challenge you, goals that remind you that you are capable of far more than you've been showing. Day by day, you begin to feel alive in your own world again, not orbiting hers. And that's the part that catches her completely off guard. It's not your silence that unsettles her, it's your expansion. Women can feel when a man is elevating himself. They sense when he's sharpening his mind, strengthening his discipline, and reclaiming the ambition he once muted while trying too hard to be enough. This reflects the spirit of Antipater of Tarsus. He didn't live for applause, attention, or approval. He lived for his mission, philosophy, mastery, clarity. He understood something most men forget. A man's mission is his backbone, his direction, the engine of his presence. When you know where you're going, your steps become firmer. Your voice carries more certainty. You walk into rooms with the grounded confidence of someone who isn't hungry for validation because he generates his own worth internally. And here's the part where attraction truly flips. When you return to your mission, you stop chasing her. But even more importantly, you stop chasing the older version of yourself, the one who needed her affection to feel significant. You begin becoming the man you were always meant to be, the man you were on the verge of becoming before you diverted your energy trying to hold on to someone who wasn't holding on to you. This new version of you, self-directed, calm, purpose-driven, is the version she didn't expect. The version that makes her pause, replay memories, and wonder how she let a man slip away who's now gaining momentum without her. Your mission becomes something she feels even in your absence. Every time she checks your social media, every time she scrolls through old messages, every time she notices you're not watching or waiting, the gravity of your purpose pulls at her. Your ambition becomes your aura. Your direction becomes your power. And your purpose becomes your gravity, a force no one can resist, especially the one who thought you'd never rise without her. Before we move on, take a moment to let that sink in. Think about how different your energy feels when your focus is on your mission instead of her reaction. That's the quiet shift that changes everything, the difference between living for validation and living with vision. And I want to hear from you. Have you felt that shift before? Have you noticed how women respond when your focus turns inward again? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, or simply type "Purpose is my power" to let me know you're on this path too. And if this message is hitting home, make sure to like this video. It helps this message reach more men who are ready to rise through calm, focus, and direction. Number 9. Silence starts working in your favor. You stop explaining yourself, stop over-clarifying, stop justifying every action. Your silence becomes intentional, not insecure. And I want you to really notice how powerful that shift is, because this is exactly why detachment is the ultimate attraction shows its true force. When you no longer rush to defend yourself or prove your value, you create a kind of presence that speaks louder than anything you could ever say. Most men think attraction happens through effort, more words, more reassurance, more convincing. But real attraction often grows in the spaces between words. When you stop filling every silence with explanations, something unexpected happens. She starts listening more closely. She starts wondering. She starts feeling. Silence, when it comes from inner strength, creates mystery, and mystery creates pull. Think of Diogenes, the Stoic Epictetus's teacher, who often taught by deliberately refusing to speak. Students would ask questions, challenge him, try to catch his attention. But his quiet forced them to confront their own assumptions. They walked away, changed, not because he told them what to think, but because he made them think for themselves. Your silence works the same way. When you stop reacting, she starts reflecting. Maybe she replays old conversations. Maybe she rethinks the moments where she took you for granted. Maybe she starts wondering why the man who always responded quickly now moves with calm intention. That shift in energy, your shift, is what makes her curiosity grow. Your silence becomes a mirror she can't ignore. And here's the truth a lot of men never realize. Silence is not the absence of power. It is power when it comes from a centered man. It shows emotional control, self-respect, and a life that doesn't revolve around someone else's approval. It signals that you've stepped back into your mission and into yourself. That's when your silence starts doing the work for you. It makes her feel your presence, even in your absence. It makes her question the distance she once created. And it makes her realize that the man she thought would always be there has learned how to let the silence speak for him. Number 10. Your attention becomes valuable. Your attention is no longer something she gets by default. It becomes rare, intentional, dignified. And I want you to really feel the difference here, because this is one of the biggest shifts that makes detachment so magnetic. When you stop giving your attention automatically, she stops taking it automatically. It no longer pours out of you the moment she appears. Instead, it becomes something she has to earn through effort, consistency, respect, and real interest. This is why detachment is the ultimate attraction. You're no longer driven by fear, by scarcity, or by the hope that giving her more will make her want you more. You start giving from strength, not insecurity. When a man's attention comes from strength, a woman's mind pays attention even when she tries not to. Think of Panaidius, who taught Roman leaders that a man's attention must be spent with dignity, not scattered in anxiety. He understood that what you give your focus to shapes not only your day, but your character. And in relationships, it shapes the entire dynamic. When your attention is scattered everywhere, especially towards someone who isn't reciprocating, you lose your center. But when your attention becomes deliberate, when you're selective and grounded, you instantly shift how she sees you. Imagine this. Before detachment, you might have responded instantly, stayed up late waiting for her replies, or checked your phone hoping for some sign of interest. She felt your energy flooding toward her, and because it was so available, it was easy to overlook. But the moment you return to your mission, your routine, your purpose, that attention becomes scarce again. Not because you're playing games, but because your life is full again. Because you're choosing yourself. And that's when everything starts turning. She notices you're not as quick to text back. She senses you're not hanging on every word. She feels that your mind is no longer orbiting around her. And that unfamiliar distance wakes up her curiosity. Women feel when a man's attention shifts inward. It creates a subtle pull, a gravity that draws her in, not through effort, but through absence. Detachment makes your attention feel like a gift instead of a habit. And when your attention becomes valuable, so do you. And before we move forward, take a moment to sit with this shift. Really reflect on how different your life feels when your attention stops flowing outward without thought and begins returning to its rightful place, yourself. Notice how the energy changes, how your posture changes, how your breathing even changes when you're no longer waiting for her to respond or validate you. This is the part most men skip, but it's the part that transforms everything. So pause here for a second, look inward, and ask yourself, when did I last give my attention to myself with the same intensity I gave to her? If that question hits you, good, because the next part builds on exactly that. Let's continue. Number 11. You become the one she thought she'd never lose. Detachment transforms you into the calmest, most solid version of yourself. You stop asking, stop hoping, stop clinging, and start living again. You pull your energy inward. You move with a kind of quiet confidence that isn't loud, but unmistakable. Instead of checking your phone every few minutes, you're checking in with yourself. Instead of wondering what she meant by a short reply, you're wondering how you can improve your body, your mind, your direction. Bit by bit, you return to your center, and that shift becomes the beginning of a completely new dynamic. And this is exactly why detachment is the ultimate attraction. Because when a man stops chasing, he stops leaking his value. He stops handing out his presence for free. Attraction isn't built through pressure or pursuit. It's built through inner gravity, and gravity grows stronger when you stand still on your path. Picture this. She sends a cold, "Okay." Before, you'd panic, overthink, and immediately try to warm her up. Now, You read it, nod, and keep moving. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. That difference is everything. This mirrors Marcus Aurelius's return to the inner citadel, a mental fortress he retreated to whenever the world tried to shake him. He didn't retreat to hide. He retreated to strengthen. He understood that a man becomes unshakable, not by controlling others, but by mastering himself. When you return to your inner citadel, you develop that same calm authority. You realize her mood isn't your responsibility. Her silence doesn't define your worth. Her inconsistency doesn't control your peace. And when you carry yourself like that, people feel it, especially her. Over time, she notices something she never expected. The man who once waited for her attention now walks with purpose again. The man who used to over-explain suddenly speaks with precision. The man who used to fear losing her now fears losing himself far more. You're not cold, you're focused. You're not distant, you're disciplined. And that is the version of you she never thought she'd lose, because she assumed you'd always remain available, always remain soft, always remain predictable. But now, your presence feels different. It's heavier, calmer, harder to replace. She starts to wonder what changed. She starts to miss the man she didn't appreciate enough. She starts to replay moments in her mind, questioning whether she pushed too far. That's the power of detachment. It turns the tables without saying a single word. You don't demand her attention, you draw it. You don't ask for her respect, you embody it. You don't try to win her back, yet you become the version of yourself she can't afford to lose. That's the quiet paradox. The moment you stop clinging to her is the moment she starts remembering your value. And the moment you step into your inner citadel is the moment she realizes you've become the man she never imagined she'd have to fight for. If there's one thing you take from this video, let it be this. A woman may be drawn to your charm, your humor, your words, but she respects your calm. She remembers your silence, she feels your absence, and she never forgets the man who chooses peace over chasing, dignity over desperation, and purpose over approval. Detachment isn't about giving up on her. It's about returning to yourself. And when you come back to your center, everything around you changes. Your energy sharpens. Your presence deepens. And that's when she truly begins to see you, the man she didn't value until you stopped handing yourself away. If this message brought you clarity, give this video a like. It helps this wisdom reach more men who need to hear it. Drop a comment below and tell me which part hit you the hardest. I read every single one. And before you go, make sure to watch the recommended videos on your screen. Each one will take you deeper into becoming the calm, grounded, unshakable man you were meant to be. Stay disciplined, stay centered, stay sovereign.